In this video, I'm going to introduce you to the parts and functions of the DrJava development environment that we will be using to work with Java code in this course. So what you see on your screen is the DrJava application when it first opens up. And you can see it's got some items that you might be familiar with from other applications and some things which you are not. If you look at the very top, it has a menu bar. And some of the menu options are things you're familiar with. It has a file with options that are available to you that are pretty typical, being able to save as, open, close, a print preview and a print. You're familiar with those from other applications. Then you have edit, where you have cut and copy and paste, find and replace, and a few other things. You have a few other items in the menu bar, which we really will not get into in this introductory level course. One thing I want you to be familiar with is one part of the edit menu, and that's the preferences. This opens a preferences pane that allows you to set particular settings within DrJava each time you start it up. There's a couple of items that are handy. One is the resource locations items, and specifically is the extra class path down here. All right. The extra class path says where are directories available to your computer where you are going to place Java code files. And so then when you ask to use a particular class as you're writing Java code, it needs to look up the file that contains the Java statements, which tells the computer how to build and use that class. So you can add a class path by clicking on Add. It will open a file manager window, and you can just select a directory in which to put things. And you can notice you can have any number. I have 2 here in my example right now. The order of these class paths is actually important, because you'll notice if I click on one, we have the Move Up button becomes available, and I could move this up above this one. The reason the order is important is when you ask for a particular class, it will search the extra class paths in order. So we'll search this directory first to find the Java code file for that class. If it doesn't find it, it will go to the next item in the class path and keep doing that until it has checked all the paths in the class path. If it doesn't find it, then you'll get an error message that it can't find the file. But you want to put the directory you're going to be most frequently using on the top of the extra class paths list. So therefore, that will be the one that will be successfully searched most often. The other preferences that I want to alert you to are the compiler options. And in this item, all you see are 6 checkboxes, all dealing with warnings. Java, as you may have read already, is a compiled language. That means there's a process that it reads the Java statements and converts those statements into a language that the computer understands and uses. What the compiler will do is check any Java code and see if the Java code is being used correctly. If it isn't, you will receive what's called a syntax error. So if you ask to compile a code, you may receive errors. You can also receive warnings. Now, warnings are different from errors. Errors will cause the resultant .class file, which is really the file the computer looks for and reads all the information about the class when you're asking to use a class in code. Warnings do not prevent that file from being created. Warnings are simply things the compiler notes that could cause errors when the code runs. But early programmers can get confused. They see a message appear when they compile code. and they don't notice if it's an error or a warning, and they immediately worry that the class file was not created. So if you want, until you get comfortable with using Java, you can click all of these so the warnings do not appear. And then you click the apply button, and that will have any changes you made to your preferences be saved. So that's the menu bar. Underneath that is the toolbar with options. Again, some of these you're probably very familiar with. You can create a new Java file, which is actually the state that DrJava opens up in. This is a new file. You can open an existing one. Click open, it will open a file manager window, and you can select any .java file, which is the file type for Java code files. And when you select that, it opens up in here. This is the work area where you do most of your typing. You make a change to this file, you can save it. You can close out of the file and it will disappear. You have cut, copy, paste, undo, and redo buttons, and a find button, all of which you're familiar with probably with other applications you have run. The compile button here is what you would press to take Java code that you have in the work area window and have it be checked by the compiler to see if there are any syntax errors, and if there are no syntax errors, to produce the class file that the computer used to read everything about the Java class that you create in that class file. There's a run button, which we will get to later in the course, which causes a particular method in the class to run. And the purpose of that class is simply to test the functionality of the various functions and methods written in the class. You will learn more about that as we get deeper into the use of the Java programming language. Another button here is called JavaDoc, a special kind of comment in Java produces a document that can be put on the web, which is called a JavaDoc. We will get to that at the end of the course. The other button here is the reset button, which I will explain in just a little bit when I go over the tabs on the bottom here. This bar to the left is the file list. You can have multiple Java files open at a given time. See, if I open one file, then I can open another file, and whichever one is appearing in the work area is the one that's highlighted, and I can just switch back and forth between them. And the list, the file list here, shows what are the Java files that are currently open. And the highlighted one shows which one is in the work area. Underneath the work area are three tabs. The compiler output tab shows the result of clicking the compile button. It will show any errors, any warnings, or if there are none, it will simply say compilation complete. I'm not sure this code file is accurate, so if I get rid of that and hit compile, the turtle I know is correct, so then you simply see compilation completed. And that means it has created the .class file that would be used by the computer if we are then asking to use a turtle in any other code that we write. We'll get to console later in the course. The interactions pane is an interesting tab. It opens the interactions pane. What you can do in the interactions pane is type Java statements that will be saved within DrJava. And you can type valid Java statements, declare variables, perform calculations, do any Java statements that we're going to be going over in the course, and that will be saved in the interactions pane. In the next video, I give you an example of using the interactions pane.